Or are we going to have the Young Bucks breaking the Big Show's record on face turns, heel turns in the course of like a year? Because if they go back to being like babyface next week, I'm going to lose my mind. Uh-oh. Did I already lose my co-host? I'm going to lose my mind over that too.
Uh, yeah, you were cutting out, and I only heard like every other word of what you said. But yeah, not really sure what's going on with the Young Bucks. Maybe they're on the same page as Kenny and Don Callis. Maybe not.
Yeah, that's going to be a huge thing because, oh man, they have just not been able to pick a freaking lane, and I'm hoping tonight is the culmination of that. That yes, they have finally picked a lane, and we're going to have heel Bucks with Omega and the Good Brothers and Don Callis, and we can move on from there. Because any of this more waffling back and forth, I'm gonna go nuts.
Yeah, I'm at this point. I would not be surprised if they're trying to have more heel and face turns than Paul White did when he was in WWF as the Big Show.
Yeah. All right. There's a few other things on here that really made no sense as well, especially in regards to heel and face, but we'll talk about that when we get there. So you're listening to That's Wrestling Podcast. If you are listening to this as a podcast, we do this show live over on Twitch and on YouTube, so you can follow the links in the show notes for that. If you have any comments, questions, feedback, you can send those to Eric at that'swrestling.com. If you want to come hang out with us in our Discord, the link is in the show notes. Head over to your favorite podcast app of choice and give us a review. It really helps out. And back with me once again is Darryl W. Perry. His internet's been a little wonky. Hopefully we can make it through without too many hiccups here.
Yeah.
See, and then we have a hiccup right there.
Hopefully, there's not too many hiccups, but if there are, I know that you'll. Yeah, I know that you'll be able to power through, and I guess do the show solo if you have to. If I keep only hearing half of what you say.
All right, so we this show was a little scatterbrained, I guess. It was kind of all over the map here. I thought it was a fun show. All the matches I thought were pretty good. And Jericho probably cut one of the best promos in the history of pro wrestling. It was pretty much a 7-minute straight monologue and just like nailed it without going off track, stumbling. He did misspeak once. We'll talk about that, but overall, I thought this was a pretty solid show. We did have, which I posted on on our Twitter at That's Wrestling One, if you want to follow us on Twitter, about the Darby Allin match, and it went exactly how I predicted. So Darby Allin match is getting a little formulaic, but overall, what did you think about the show?
Yeah, so the Darby Allin match. Formulaic, I'd give that a low spot or a low rating, and I also thought that the Bear Country Jurassic Express match was alive, and it seemed to just be so that they could promote the Godzilla versus Kong movie. Seemed a little WWE WCW to me. But those two things aside, really good show.
All right, so let's get into it. We opened up the show with all of the Inner Circle driving up in nice-looking cars, and we had Jericho driving up in, I'm not sure what it was. I'm guessing it was a Ferrari? Not sure. But anyways, we start off the show with Adam Page versus Max Castor. This was kind of a lopsided match here. Hangman, of course, we had Castor coming out doing his rap gimmick, and Bowens came out as well, and he started talking after Castor was done. Hangman didn't even put up with it. He just gives him a big boot, and he rolls out of the ring and then goes straight to work on Castor. And Castor basically never started at any point. Hangman hits a bunch of strikes, power moves. We have early near falls. Castor pulls Hangman to the outside, but Hangman just beats him up, so it didn't even go anywhere. We had some distractions from Bowens here and there, just talking to Hangman. Hangman just continues all of his offense. He does crossbody to the floor. He crotches Castor on the barricade, gives him a flying clothesline off of the barricade. Castor pulls Hangman into the ring post near the end of the match, and then Castor distracts the ref while on the outside. Bowens throws Hangman into the barricade. Castor tries to attack the shoulder that they were kind of going after. And then we had Castor getting hit with an exploder for a 2 count. And then Hangman hits a sidewalk slam on the apron. Bowens distracts Hangman from doing the moonsault to the floor. Castor screws up, jumping up onto the turnbuckle to give Hangman an avalanche suplex, but he tries it again and then hits it. We have a massive lariat from Page. He sets up for dead eyes, but Bowens throws the boombox in, and while the ref is getting rid of the boombox, Bowens on the other side of the ring threw Castor his chain that he wears around his neck. He wrapped it around his fist, punched Page in the face, tosses the chain, goes for the cover. Hangman kicks out at 2, and then Hangman sets up for the buckshot. Bowens grabs his leg so he can't jump over. Hangman just shrugs him off, hits him with a moonsault to the floor, jumps back up on the apron, hits a buckshot lariat to Castor, gets the win. Castor basically never got anything of substance off in this match. It was a squash with a teammate at ringside. Not such a good look for the Acclaim here.
Yeah. I will say that they had me with that near fall at the end after the loaded fist. The moonsault that Hangman hit on Bowen, good. Where Bowen had to lean into it to even be touched by Hangman. I really liked the spot where he jumped off of the barricade.
Mm-hmm.
Because that seems like something that you would normally see him do inside the ring. He did it outside. Overall, good match. The right guy won.
Next up, we had Tony introduces Death Triangle. Tony mentions that Pac and Phoenix have a tag title shot. But before they can say anything, Orange Cassidy's music hits. Orange Cassidy says he's glad to see all of them back in the ring. They show video of Pac beating up Orange Cassidy at last year's Revolution. And then Phoenix hitting the flying kick up on the stage to Orange Cassidy that everybody replayed a million times because Orange Cassidy just got wiped out. Chuck says they don't forget. Pac says, obviously, these guys want a title shot at the next they want a shot at the next AEW champions. And Pac says, well, get to the back of the line. Trent says that's not a problem for them to work their way back up since they have more wins than any other team in AEW. And we're here to tell you that the boys are back in town. And we have an alien with us as well.
Yeah, and I want trios titles.
Yes.
They have so many 3-man groups and so many 3-man matches. We need trios titles.
We definitely need trios titles at this point. I mean, we have so many trios. We have Death Triangle. We have Best Friends. We can have a trio out of the Pinnacle, out of the Inner Circle. We have the trio of Jurassic Express. There's just so many of the Nightmare family. I'm sure they can put together QT Marshall's faction now. They have a trios with QT being a single if he's going to go that way. We have so many tag teams. It's insane. And so many trios that are like legit teams that it's like no reason not to have trios titles at this point. And I know they kind of teased them at the Jericho Cruise last year that 2021 they might have them, or they might have them at the Jericho Cruise that was supposed to happen this year, but obviously didn't. So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw them sooner rather than later, but I'm hoping by the end of the year we definitely have trios titles. But one of the things that kind of threw me on this promo is Death Triangle was playing up really a heel role here, even though Death Triangle had pretty much turned babyface a little while ago. So I don't know which way they're going with Death Triangle, which also gives me pause when it comes back to the Young Bucks, what we find out at the end of the night. So if the Young Bucks are going to be heels and Death Triangle are going to be heels, it's like they should have just held off like a week to let the match happen first before these two are both heels.
Yeah. Or maybe Death Triangle is going to be tweeners.
I mean, that's kind of been the way it's been. I mean, Phoenix has kind of been a baby. Actually, he's gone back and forth. Pac has gone back, and Penta's the only one that's kind of stayed consistently a heel. So I don't. Yeah, they're again. They need to pick a lane and stay in the lane so we know where we're going. And a little too much of this. Well, it depends on the situation. Like, well, I don't hate them as much as the other guys, or I like them better than the other. Yeah, this kind of in between thing is getting a little blurry. And now coming up for next week, they announced at the end of the show that it's going to be Young Bucks versus Pac and Phoenix for the titles. At the end of the show, I don't know who I'm going to even be rooting for. At this point, I don't care if the Young Bucks retain, and I don't particularly care if they lose the titles to Death Triangle.
Yeah, I'm basically rooting for Aubrey Edwards.
All right, so we have the Inner Circle come out, and Jericho says they have a lot to say, but after the break. And they go to break. Sammy does his card gimmick for the first time in quite a long time. So his cards said, before I start, let's get this out of the way. Hit me up. Speaking of hits, whether it's tables, doors, ice baths, or glass, the Inner Circle has hits for days. Hey, Pinnacle, how you feeling? One more thing, it feels good to be back. And then in the commercial, I was watching the fight feed, Jericho says, well, we're in commercial, but I'll give you a heads up 30 seconds before it's over so you guys can start that Inner Circle chant. So when we come back, it makes us sound like we're really popular. And when they come back, there is a very loud Inner Circle chant, which I thought was pretty funny, especially being able to see the fight feed and that he told the crowd that. And then Jericho cuts probably one of the best promos in wrestling in a long time. And I did not write down word for word. This is summarized. You go check it out. I'm sure the whole segment is probably on YouTube right now. Jericho basically says that we're the Inner Circle and we're back. It's only been a month since we got the beatdown of a lifetime by the Pinnacle, or by the Pineapple. And Sammy whispers in his ears, and like without even like thinking about it, says, Pinnacle, that beating taught us a lot, gave us hospital stays, stitches, and a wake-up call that we've made some bad decisions, and we apologize for that, what we've done in the past 6 months, but those were all caused by MJF, my jerk-off friend, and says that he brought MJF into the inner circle to keep him under his thumb, to use him for all of his being, to suck the life out of him into the inner circle. But we didn't think he would be one step ahead of us. MJF, you consider yourself like fine wine. You get better as you age, but you don't want to wait for the age. You want to be better than Jericho now. He says that MJF stole his scarf gimmick, and if you're so superior to me, then why are you stealing my shit? And I have an old clipboard backstage if you want to steal that one as well. He says MJF will never be better than Jericho, and he knows it. He then runs down the entire Pinnacle. He says that Tully is a third-string member of the Four Horsemen. FTR, the guys are interchangeable. He doesn't know which one's which. He doesn't know which one's Dax and which one's Cash. He says that Spears, he only knows him because he called him after getting fired from the Fed 10 years ago, asking for advice, makes fun of the blonde mohawk in 2021, says Wardlow, this is the one misspeak he had. He said, Wardlow, he has $1 million brain and a 13-cent body, but I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be the other way around. Wardlow has $1 million body and a 13-cent brain. And he says he can't even count to 21 without stripping naked. They say that they are looking for a fight. They're going to shove all of the Pinnacle's heads up each other's asses and make a human centipede with MJF in the back. And Jericho says they're going to beat the shit out of the Pinnacle in a blood and guts match on May 5th. The worst is yet to come. This promo was just straight fire.
Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what Blood and Guts actually is going to be. And when he messed up that 13-cent brain $1 million body line, all I could think about was when Scott Steiner did his really weird math promo in TNA. And then I think Psycho Sid was cutting a promo on somebody, or maybe it was Steiner cutting a promo on Sid, something about if I had half as much brains as you do, something. It just reminded me of both of those things, to where it's like, wait, that's not what you're trying to say, but I know what you mean.
All right. While I do the next one, you think you want to try to reconnect? You drop out like every 5 seconds or so. Dasha is backstage with Christian, asking how Christian is feeling. Christian says that he feels like last week was the culmination of an entire year of grinding by himself to get back in shape, basically, to take back what was taken from him 7 years ago. Frankie took him into deep water. He says his lungs were burning, but he loved every second of it. He says he makes wrestlers level up. This is the second time we've heard him use that phrase. Taz then cuts in, says that, hey, 7 years is a long time, but I have a group of guys that can help you get where you want to go. And Taz offers him a spot in Team Taz. I doubt that's going to come of anything. Yeah, I'm sure he's not joining Team Taz, but again, here we have Christian kind of cutting the same promo that he's cut 3 times at this point. So hopefully he can kind of pull it together and give us something a little bit more memorable. Think we lost Darryl. So I mean, this is one of the things. Christian, I've said before, I'm a huge fan of Christian's. I think he is better than Edge on the microphone and in the ring, but here we've kind of had a rehash of the same promo that we had the previous week. So hopefully we can get something out of it. But I'm guessing, what are we going to see? Christian versus Ricky Starks coming out of this, him turning down Taz? Maybe. Darryl, you back with us?
Yeah, I'm not really sure what's going to happen with the Christian Team Taz thing. Seems very similar to what started out with the Team Taz Darby thing. But then again, there's also a little bit of infighting within Team Taz. So maybe Christian can play off of that and cause some more division.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's probably a way to go. Maybe he can actually pull somebody out. Brian Cage, we thought he was kind of turning baby face. We could have Cage and Cage.
Yeah, that's actually what I was thinking.
All right. Next up we had the Kong versus Godzilla match. This is just like we said at the beginning, an excuse to pimp the new movie. And I was watching it on Fight, but somebody said that during the commercial break there was a commercial for Godzilla versus Kong, and they're like, yeah, I'm gonna watch the trailer because that's way more exciting than watching the picture-in-picture. So a little bit of a bummer there, but this is team number 2 versus team number 4 on the rankings, and that is Jurassic Express versus Bear Country. Something to note that I don't think was ever touched on: Marco Stunt was not out with Jurassic Express and was not mentioned why he was not out there or why he wasn't even seen. So a little bit of a head scratcher there, not sure why. Jungle Boy gets face palmed right off of his feet when they're having a opening stare down. Then they brawl. We have a couple of dives from Jungle Boy. Bear Country catches Jungle Boy on the third one and kind of toss him to the side as Luchasaurus ends up hitting a dive as well. We have Bronson catching Jungle Boy with a Rana attempt and just pulling him up into like a powerbomb position. And then Luchasaurus tried to do a crossbody. I'm not sure what was supposed to happen. I think he was supposed to also be caught. So Jungle Boy was supposed to be up on a powerbomb position, and then Luchasaurus was going to be caught in like the crossbody, and both of them dropped. But then like Luchasaurus gets kind of like bounced off of him and landed on the mat. Jungle Boy gets hit with the powerbomb. Bear Country gets the heat on Jungle Boy through a commercial break. Luchasaurus gets a hot tag, takes out Bear Country. Boulder and Luchasaurus end up on the top rope, and Boulder hits an avalanche suplex for 2. Jungle Boy hits a springboard tornado DDT, and then he is dropped into a Luchasaurus pin attempt to break up the pin. And then Bear Country hit I'm going to call this a backpack cannonball. Basically, one of the guys, I don't know which one it was, if it was Bronson or Boulder, but one got up on the other guy's back like a piggyback ride, and then he ran and did a cannonball with the dude on his back to Luchasaurus, who was sitting in the corner. Luchasaurus comes back, tail whip kick, Boulder's sent to the outside, and then Luchasaurus hits a choke slam and a standing moonsault and gets the win all over Bronson. And on Twitter, I'm like, hey, a non-finisher finished this match. Though, I mean, a chokeslam used to be a finisher for some people, and a standing moonsault would be for some other people. But hey, it wasn't the normal finisher that finished this match. I wish signature spots would finish matches more often.
Yeah, and I honestly was not super invested in this match. As I said at the beginning, like, this was kind of a low spot. Seemed like the only reason they had the match was so that they could do a movie promo.
Yeah. But I mean, we have number 2 versus number 4 here. I'm assuming Jurassic Express, they're going to be in line for a title shot at some point. Though now we have the problem with Death Triangle going after the tag titles next week, but already setting up a program with Best Friends. It doesn't matter if Death Triangle loses or wins, they're going into a program with best friends. Again, this comes back to why didn't they wait until after next week to do this, to start this program, and then we would actually have some clear line of sight here, because now it makes no sense that best friends would come in right before Death Triangle is going to have
also,
a championship match.
I've not seen the Bears on Dynamite that much, so like they've given me no reason to care about them.
Right.
And okay, they're number 4. How did they get to be number 4? Oh, they won a bunch of matches on YouTube shows.
Mm-hmm.
But you've not told me that they won a bunch of matches on the YouTube shows. You're just telling, oh, they're the number 4 tag team. Well, how did that happen? Because the only time I can recall seeing them is that tag team battle royal thing.
Yeah, this has been an ongoing issue, and I'm going to continue to say it until they actually finally start doing it, is that at the opening of Dynamite, they need to have a 2-minute previously on, and they run down everything that's important that plays into the show that you're about to see. So they do previously on Dynamite if they're doing stuff with... for example, last night they had Moxley and the Bucks versus the Good Brothers and Omega. Well, they do 15 seconds covering that. Then if we're going to have Bear Country versus Jurassic Express, we have over on Dark, they pick some highlights out of Bear Country's stuff to say, hey, over on Dark, they won this match and this match and this match. It's just like one of those simple things that makes no friggin' sense, where every other TV show on the planet, if they run week to week, they do a previously on such and such to bring everybody up to speed before the show starts. And one, it makes it easier for new viewers to immediately get caught up. And two, for those of us who have short-term memory and or have no long-term memory or a combination of both, then... I don't remember what happened 6 weeks ago. If you remind me, oh yeah, that makes way more sense. And then I don't have to jog through, things that I cannot remember happening when you watch hundreds of hours of wrestling every year.
And one other thing that, since we're throwing out suggestions, they already run the Dark results on the bottom of the screen at some point during the show. Put the records of your competitors. Mm-hmm. It's that difficult to wind up doing. That way I know that, Matt Seidel has won however many matches, and he beat a guy that's like 0-43.
Right, exactly. Yeah, when Lee Johnson is like 0-30 something, that's like, okay, big whoop. Who really cares that he... Yeah. Including the records in the ticker would be fine, but still, I mean, a 1 minute at the beginning of the show covering what happened on Dark and what happened on previous Dynamites, maybe you have to go 2 to 3 minutes depending on how much stuff you have to cover to get everybody into relevance going for the rest of the show. It's like the simplest thing you can do, and it would make things so much more enjoyable to watch.
And they're going to wind up running basically every match through a commercial anyway. Mm-hmm. So it's not like you need to cut out time for matches that's on TV. Just, all right, we're going to put this other match running through a commercial, and then, after that match, we give you the 2-minute highlight.
Yeah.
It's not that hard.
Nope. All right, so moving on, we had QT and Marshall. He is at the Nightmare Factory with his guys standing behind him. He's in the ring. They're all he's sitting there, and they're all standing by his side. QT says, your mantra should be work for me, your mantra should be do the work for me, whether it's creating this amazing training facility or carrying your broken down brother to whatever career he had left ever since the start of this friendship. All I've ever done is work for you, and I'm sick of the narrative that you created that you went out of your way to help me, basically leaving me dead in the water before I can even start. My credentials, let's talk about for a minute while you were playing second fiddle to Ted Jr., or when you had to hide behind face paint, even though you're known as Dusty's kid. You knew deep down you would never amount to shit, but you figured it out. Didn't you? You put yourself on the indies, surrounded yourself by vanilla midgets, and you could finally feel like a superstar, the superstar you knew you'd never be. Now I've surrounded myself, but with men who were hungry, sick of waiting in the shadows, men who trust me, because unlike you, bargain brand Sting, I am unsure of what that is referencing. We'll come back in a second. I'm not worried about other people's success. Aaron Solo, he'll never be known as just some boyfriend, which is a reference that he dated Bailey for a very long time, and they are no more. Nick Camarado is not going to be ever called the body guy. And then there's a Go-Go. A Go-Go says that he's a star in the UK. He's a household name. He knocks people out for fun. And Cody, and then QT says, Cody, this is my fucking factory.
Camarado tried to throw some paint on the logo.
Came up a little bit short.
And didn't really cover it up. But otherwise, super good promo. I loved the surrounding yourself with vanilla midgets on the indies line. And the reference to Dusty's kid, which, that's kind of what Cody was known for when he first started, right? Oh yeah, that's Dusty's kid. Of course he's going to get a shot. He's Dusty's kid. I'm doing a favor for Dusty. But yeah, I'm starting to care about this feud. Apparently this faction is simply known as The Factory, or at least according to the shirt that went up on the Shop AEW right after this promo. And I had to look up Anthony Ogogo, and apparently he's he was a legit boxer. The only loss he had as a professional boxer was for a vacant title. His eye socket, one of them got fractured during that fight. He wound up being legally blind and having to retire from boxing a year later. I didn't know that about him. Build that up a little bit. That commentary did mention, he's an Olympic medalist, which he is. He won, I think it was a bronze medal in 2012. So, they're kind of building up his, accolades outside of the ring, but build up the whole, broken orbital bone sort of thing. Mm-hmm. Build up that he's an actual fighter. He can kick your ass.
Yeah, I mean it's what they need to do, but at least they did mention that he is a medalist. I'm sure we're gonna start to hear more about these guys as this feud kind of heats up, and this was a great promo from QT Marshall, and I thought it hit all the right notes, and it being a pre-tape, then they could do whatever they needed to do to tighten it up if they needed to, and I thought this came off pretty well. And I have always thought that QT Marshall was way underrated, and I know people have been kind of hating on him for whatever reason, but yeah, I think this is a great role for him, and I think he came off as kind of a prick heel, which I think is where he's kind of going.
Yeah, and we need more factions. I know that some people don't like factions. I happen to love factions. I think AEW needs more of them.
I love factions too. I have no problem with there being a zillion factions. I like how New Japan basically everybody is in a faction minus a few guys. But yeah, I have no problem with there being a zillion factions, and you have all these rivalries that you can do, and given how AEW books their matches, they don't overdo the same match over and over again. If you have a singles match, you might face the same guy twice in a year in singles matches. It rarely happens that you'd see a guy more than once in a single match in a year so far that they've been going. You know, we're a year and a half, a year and 8 months at this point into it. So yeah, I mean, they rarely ever rehash a match, and that way these factions can go on, and you're not gonna end up wearing them out. And I have no problem with having a zillion factions.
Yeah.
All right, we have the obligatory Tony introduces Sting. I don't really care. Jake interrupts, basically calls out the fact that they've been interrupting Sting every week, or somebody's interrupted Sting every week. Jake says that he is crazy. Lance Archer comes out, basically says that the world is going to pay him attention, and it should be his time. And he tells that to Sting. This should be me and Tony out here. Sting grabs the mic, basically agrees with Lance Archer, says that Lance Archer should be the one in the main event, and then basically says it 6 more different ways, saying the same thing. And that was it. I really don't need to see Sting next week again. And I know we're going to, because Darby Allin is defending the title against Matt Hardy.
Seeing him, let alone seeing him in 3 segments.
Was he in 3?
So there was this.
Yep.
And then there was this one. He came out, he was in the corner of Darby Allin. And then when the Dark Order, Dark Order Hardy family office got into something, Darby and Sting came out.
Yes.
And yeah, he was in 3 segments. I'm wondering if he's got a per appearance bonus on top of whatever his salary is, and he just gets extra money for being on TV.
Well, wouldn't that incentivize Tony not to use him nearly as much if he's paying him extra for every appearance?
Yeah.
Oh, every single week we have
never
not
know
skipped
how
a week.
People's contracts are actually done. Yeah.
All right, moving on. Team Taz.
But yet, when's the last time that Peter Avalon?
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen him on Dynamite for a while. I also haven't seen him hanging out on his ringside bed either. Anywho, Team Taz. There's a Team Taz video segment. They're all arguing. There's still strife within. That is about it. He didn't really say anything of substance. I didn't catch anything of substance. Did you?
Team Taz anymore.
You don't what?
I don't care about Team Taz.
Yeah. It's it's kind of grown stale.
They're starting to argue amongst themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Ricky's a prick.
Well, that's not new.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Next up, we had Darby Allin defending his TNT Championship against JD Drake. Ryan Nemeth and Cesar Bononi were at ringside for Drake. And, of course, we have Sting at ringside. Sting runs off Nemeth after Nemeth tries to get involved. Drake just beats the crap out of Darby. Darby gets next to no offense. The heat just goes on and on and on. Fighting on the outside, Drake throws Darby He like threw him up into the ropes, and then when he bounced off and came back down, he like hit him with a strike, and Darby's like doesn't even hit the offense. Drake ends up hitting the offense on himself by charging at Darby, who is resting against the barricade. Darby moves out of the way. Drake puts himself into the barricade. Then they go back inside. Darby hits a dive onto Drake and Benoni, and then back in the ring, Drake hits a cannonball onto Darby, who is in the Tree of Woe. Darby hits the Avalanche Code Red coffin drop, gets the win. So exactly what I wrote on Twitter, that Darby Allin matches have pretty much been beat up Darby, beat up Darby, beat up Darby. Darby hits a hope spot, then he gets the win, and that's exactly how this match went.
Yeah,
that's exactly how last week's match went too.
They need to do something different with Darby. I don't know what they need to do with him, but something different.
Yeah, I mean, if they're gonna have like week after week have like these bigger guys that he gets like no offense on, they need to not do it, in successive matches if they're going to do this type of style. But Darby just basically gets thrown around for 15 minutes, hits one hope spot, hits a coffin drop, and gets the win. And or I think the last time he just did a roll up and got the win.
Yeah, and then I'm also wondering how, because there's so many times when Darby tries doing a dive on somebody and they just catch him. How is it he was able to dive and take out both JD Drake and Cesar Benoni? Like, they should have caught him. He should not have knocked both of these big guys down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, his speed is the advantage that he needs to use, and any of these moves that require his weight to be thrown around has to be at high speed for it to make any sense. And he just has not been doing that in his past few matches. He just has it's just he gets beat up and gets the pin. It's kind of formulaic at this point, and I hope we see something better out of him against Matt Hardy next week.
At least there's precedent for having smaller guys fight bigger guys and win. Rey Mysterio has been booked incredibly well in that small guy is able to take out big guys. Spike Dudley, his original ECW run and a little bit in WWE. Little guy able to take out big guys by using, like their size and strength against them. Mm-hmm. Sort of like how, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Judo, like you're using the other person's momentum against them. Like there are ways to book him to be strong, but they're booking him to be like incredibly weak. Like he's not winning the matches because he's relentless. He's winning the matches because he's lucky.
Right, exactly. Just like you were saying with Jiu-Jitsu, I'm like, I've seen Hoist Gracie beat the crap out of Tank Abbott, and Tank Abbott outweighs Hoist Gracie by like 100 pounds. So, there are fighting styles, and there are styles in wrestling that you can use to be the small guy to work against the big guy and come off as believable and get some offense in. And for whatever reason, Darby Allin has been told not to do that for the past few weeks. I'm not sure if it's just how like the agenting is going or what. I'm not sure. I doubt Darby Allin wants to look like this the whole time, or maybe he does and he likes being the underdog who gets the fluke wins. I'm not sure. At this point, Darby Allin's growing a bit tired for me unless he actually shows some fire.
Yeah, like I would rather see Joey Janela with the TNT title and let him do all of his weird stuff, jumping off the rafters.
Yeah. After the match, Darby Allin was leaving. He gets trucked by Butcher, and the rest of the Hardy family office come out. Dark Order and Sting come out the other side. Bunny gets cut off from the Hardy family office because she had gone over to the commentary desk. Ty Conti double legs Bunny, takes her down, starts throwing some punches. They get broken up. So I guess technically this is not 3 segments because it's still the end of the Darby Allin match that Sting had already had come out for.
Okay. I for some reason, you know why I was counting it as 3 segments?
Because he had
there
run
was the
off
commercial
Nemeth.
break in the middle of the Darby Allin match.
Oh, that too.
Break, and then he came back.
Mm-hmm. All right, we have Alex Marvez. He is with Chris Jericho in the back, and he's asking about the Pinnacle, but basically the Pinnacle attack Jericho right away. They're beating up in the back. They beat him up on the way out to the ring. They drag him out to the ring. The Inner Circle is nowhere to be found. And then they show that the Inner Circle had been locked into their dressing room by the Pinnacle. So they're shown breaking through the door. Jericho gets hit with the Mindbreaker by FTR. They set up a table on the outside. But before Wardlow can do anything, Mike Tyson comes out and he gets in the ring. Most of the Pinnacle jump out of the ring, but Shawn Spears was a little slow on that exit and he beats up on Shawn Spears a bit, and then the rest of the Inner Circle make their way out to run off the Pinnacle. And then we have Jericho, who was in a feud with Tyson a few months ago, or it's almost a year at this point. He and Jericho are facing down each other. Jericho sticks out his hand. They shake hands. They put their arm around each other. And it looks like Tyson is on the Inner Circle's side now. And Jericho and Tyson has buried the hatchet.
Yeah, and I am going to make one minor small complaint. This thing should have happened after the Ty Conti Alley match. And the Ty Conti Alley match should have happened immediately after that pull apart. And just, you know what? They're fighting. We're having to pull them apart. We're going to go ahead and have the match. Get them in the ring. Have the match. Instead, they have the pull apart, this segment, and then they come back out and they do the match. Mm-hmm. I think things would have just like gone a little smoother. Just reversed this segment and that match.
Yeah, I can see that working. It would be a little out of the norm for AEW since I don't remember them ever doing an impromptu match or starting a match out of order. I don't know. But yes, that would be a fine transition to happen, to let that happen.
Yeah, it would not have been an impromptu match because the match had been announced. Mm-hmm. Just let them, you know what? They're already fighting. Let's go ahead and do the match.
Yeah. Yeah, that would have been a fine transition. I think that would have worked. I didn't even really put that together. But yeah, makes sense. Next up we had Tony was with Brit Baker. This was pre-taped earlier in the day. She's with Rebel. Brit says she has a special announcement that she has a request for Tony. Give the people what they want, and that is a title match for Brit Baker. She says that the ranking system is shit and that it should be based on star power and merch sales. And I thought that was pretty funny to say it like that, but it is what it is.
Yeah, and I love her new t-shirt, and I do have to kind of agree with her about the ranking system because nobody understands how it's calculated.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I haven't had a problem with the ranking system. I mean, for those who like watch MMA, you watch like UFC, rarely do we see it work out the way you think it would go with the rankings anyways. So I mean they are taking kind of they're being a bit loose with with how they book out of it. But I mean that's nothing out of the ordinary from any other combat sport. They are always trying to make the biggest fight, regardless if it's number one against number two or anything like that, to people move around. But yeah, I mean, I haven't really had an issue with it.
Yeah, I would just like to understand how they're calculating things. Are we using opponent win-loss record in how we calculate? Like, are we taking strength of schedule into account? How do we factor in losses? So if I'm number 5 and I lose to number 1, does that count less than if I'm number 5 and I lose to somebody that's unranked?
Right. Yeah, I mean, this is a thing that they did talk about way early, that yes, strength of opponent comes into play and where they do the rankings. And they used to have Jen Decker doing a ranking video on YouTube like every week, and she would run down the rankings and kind of explain the rankings, but they stopped doing that quite a while ago. I wish I wish they'd bring it back. It was just like a 5-minute thing going over all the rankings for the men, the women, and the tag titles, or the tag teams. And I thought that was a great video that they always put up on YouTube. So at least if you wanted to dive into it a bit, you could. But they kind of stopped doing that. So that's something I'd like to see them bring back, even if it's on YouTube and they just like make a quick mention of it, so that you see the rankings analysis over on YouTube. They just mentioned that in like 5 seconds whenever it comes up. Then I think I think it would play off a little.
Really talk about the ranking.
Mm-hmm.
They don't really talk about the rankings on Dynamite, other than to occasionally mention where somebody is ranked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. I mean, if that was the case, that they did the analysis over on YouTube when they say, hey, so and so is ranked in such and such a matter. And if you're curious why, head over to YouTube and watch the analysis. If they don't want to actually do it on Dynamite. All right. Moving on, we go into the match that we were just talking about that should have just happened after the previous match, and that is Bunny versus Ty Conti. We have the Hardy family office at ringside, as well as the Dark Order at ringside. We have a little bit of back and forth at the opening. Bunny takes over. They fight on the outside. Bunny gives Ty Conti a shotgun drop kick into the barricade on the outside. Running knee to the head from the Bunny when they get back in the ring. Bunny works an arm choke. Conti gets to the ropes. She tries another choke variant. Conti tries to stand up and fight out of it. Bunny knees her in the stomach. Bunny starts to get a little cocky. Conti throws her around a few times with some judo throws, hits a swinging neck breaker. Bunny avoids a running knee in the corner. Ty avoids a down the rabbit hole. Hardy tries to get involved. He jumps up onto the apron. Ty comes back, hits the Ty KO. Bunny kicks out at 2. Bunny goes to the outside. Cheap shot to Hikaru who is also at ringside, which I forgot to mention at the beginning of this. Grabs Hikaru kendo stick. And the Dark Order and Hardy family office start going at it out on the outside. So this distracts the ref because of the brawl. Bunny hits Ty Conti with the kendo stick. She goes up top to the top rope, but Hikaru jumps up onto the apron, gets the kendo stick away from Bunny. Conti hits a superplex and then hits the Ty DT for the victory. So Conti comes out the victor after Bunny's victory last week in a tag match, but Conti picks up the singles here.
Yeah, it's definitely the right move. they've mentioned, for a couple of weeks now, Ty Conti, number one ranked. Apparently, she's been number one for, I think they said 3 straight weeks. Mm-hmm. Say that this win secures her a title match. Like, they've still not, unless I missed it, they've still not said that, like, she's secured a title match. I also thought it was kind of interesting that Shida would help the number one, or who's essentially the number one contender, help her win instead of just letting her lose and falling down the rankings.
Yeah, well, I mean, Hikaru Shida is a babyface. Ty Conti's a babyface, so it kind of makes sense. I mean, she probably does. I mean, Bunny would move her way up into the rankings probably if that was not the case. So, I mean, it's fine either way. I'm guessing if they are going to finally do the title match, it will be the women's match at Blood and Guts.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping, is that they say that it's going to be the women's match at Blood and Guts, because just holding off and not having Shida defend the title or wrestle until Double or Nothing would just seem ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, Shida and Ty Conti teamed up last week. So I mean, Shida but has not defended the title since the pay-per-view, I don't think. Since Revolution?
Singles matches. She's only had 2 singles matches this year.
Oh, yeah, true. So, yeah, so I guess we'll see how that plays out. Ty Conti should probably get her title shot. Ty has been looking super good, and I'm actually kind of looking forward to Hikaru Shida versus Ty, and I think that if they they plan something out, they could have a pretty good match. I mean, one of the best matches that Hikaru Shida has had was with Penelope Ford.
Yeah.
They let us run down. They ran down the card for next week. It's actually looking like a pretty fun card. We're going to have Matt Hardy versus Darby Allin for the TNT Championship in a Falls Count Anywhere match. So adding a stip to that one. Pac and Phoenix take on the Young Bucks for the AEW Tag Team Championship. So 2 championships defended next week. Anthony Ogogo makes his Dynamite debut, and then we have Red Velvet and Jade Cargill in a one-on-one match. They have a short promo video, basically just recapping everything. It wasn't anything of major substance. And then we have Dax Harwood versus Chris Jericho, with Mike Tyson as the special guest enforcer. So I'm guessing this is coming out of Jericho saying that he doesn't know which one of the guys from FTR is which. They're just interchangeable in his head. So throwing a little shade at Dax Harwood wanting to... I'm guessing Dax Harwood's going to say something along the lines of, I'm going to make Chris Jericho remember me, who I am now, or something along that line, I'm guessing.
Yeah, You cut out. I did not hear half of what you just said.
Oh, about Chris Jericho and Dax Harwood? Maybe.
Yeah, I still did.
All right, I will move on because
I still didn't get it. Let's move on.
Yeah, it didn't require any analysis. So, all right, we have Kenny Omega and the Good Brothers versus Jon Moxley and the Young Bucks. Callis is taunting Matt Jackson from the outside, and then Omega gets a tag in. They exchange some words. They do some pushing and shoving between Matt and Omega. Nick gets a tag in. They do some basic work to start. Omega goes to the outside after a flying head scissors. Anderson gets tagged in. Nick bests Anderson. Omega and Gallows try to get involved. So Mox and Matt join the party. They hit a triple dive on everybody on the outside. once everything kind of gets back to order, Anderson gets beat up for a while. Then Matt gets beat up for a while. Moxley gets a hot tag, runs over Anderson, knocks Omega off the apron as well. And then Moxley no-sells some strikes from Anderson. And then Moxley gives all three of his opponents German suplexes. Gallows hits Moxley with a big boot to turn things around for a bit, but Moxley eventually gets the tag out to Nick. Strikes for everybody, double stomp to the back of Gallows, backstabber to Anderson, running kick to Gallows. Anderson blocks a face buster and hits a spine buster. Matt gets tagged in, Omega gets tagged in, so they're back at each other again. Matt hits some hip tosses, backdrop, DDT, and then Matt cannot bring himself to super kick Omega. He hesitates. And Matt is like checking on Omega to see if he's even okay. Omega slaps him. Matt double legs Omega and starts laying some punches in. Everybody, we have run-ins from everybody. And then once that calms back down, Matt and Omega are still the ones left in the ring. Matt then gets hit with 2 Snapdragons. Moxley breaks up a V-trigger with a massive lariat, and then Matt hits a pile driver on Omega for 2. Matt is still torn about what's happening, and the Bucks hit more bang for your buck. And then Matt cannot bring himself to participate in the BTE trigger, and Mox tags himself in. He's yelling at the Bucks. He's yelling at Matt. Mox hits Kenny with two paradigm shifts, puts on a rear naked choke, and then he sets up for another paradigm shift, and the Young Bucks super kick Moxley. And then we have Kingston running out. He ends up getting hit with a magic killer from the Good Brothers on the stage. Bucks are just standing there watching everything happen. Good Brothers get in, hit a magic killer on Moxley. They drag Omega's body over onto Moxley, and Omega gets the pin. After the match, the Bucks are still just kind of standing there. Gallows and Anderson stand Moxley up in front of the Bucks because they want him to super kick Moxley, and the Bucks super kick Moxley. Gallows throws up the 2 sweet, but the Bucks opt for a big group hug. And that's how they go off the air. This better be the freaking heel turn, and I don't wanna see babyface Young Bucks for a very, very long time.
Yeah, and I normally don't complain about the officiating in AEW, but there were a couple of spots where, and I forget if it was this match or where at one point I posted in the chat, like, is the ref even doing a 10 count? Because they were just fighting outside for what. And you're back.
Yep. I clicked on the wrong button.
You went away for 2 seconds. And then in this match, the Good Brothers interfered. There should have been a disqualification call right then. Kenny was out for 2 minutes. There should have been, the 10 count. He didn't get up, didn't answer the 10 count. Match is over. It seems like there are times where they're just sort of, letting the fight happen, which is okay. If you're going to let the fight happen, but tell us that those are the rules. Mm-hmm. When you lead us to believe that the rules are, if you're outside of the ring for 10 seconds, you get counted out. If you don't stand up or defend yourself or whatever for 10 seconds, that's a TKO, match is over. That's what I'm led to believe the rules are. And then you've got the ref just ignoring those rules and letting the people fight it out. I don't think this was an ODQ match.
Nope.
Was it?
Nope.
The whole thing of Good Brothers interfering, Kenny not getting up for like 3 minutes. That's like 2 times that the ref should have called for the bell. Didn't happen. But of course, we know that the refs are being paid by kind of the Young Bucks. I realize it's directly from Tony Khan, but they're EVPs, so like, maybe they just told the ref like happens, but like be honest about it and tell us. Mm-hmm. Like they tell me that Kris Statlander is an alien. I'm going to believe that she's an alien. Like I know that she's a human. She's an alien. Just like I believe that the Undertaker is some kind of undead mortician, possibly. Kane is his real brother. Kane killed their parents, but may not have killed the parents. He had horrible scars that turned out to be mental scars that presented themselves on his face that one time only, and Kane may or may not have raped a corpse. Like, I believe these things because that's what I'm told.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the officiating
goes... Tell me that the rules are X, I'm going to think that the rules are X.
Yeah, as far as the officiating goes, I mean, some of it is just easily cleaned up. With just saying, okay, the ref has discretion if both combatants are on the outside and we have a mutual combat type of situation, they may let it go. If it's getting out of hand on the outside, maybe that's when they'll start a 10 count to bring it back in. I mean, it's easy enough to get around that stuff. But some of the stuff, like not even trying to get illegal men out of the ring. I mean, this is not just an AEW problem. This is a huge problem in New Japan as well, but not even like trying to make the effort. At least what I've seen I've seen actually quite a lot. Phoenix has actually been really good at this. If he's going to do something while he's the illegal man, he does a hit and run. He runs in, hits it, gets out of the ring. So it's like, the ref doesn't even have to think about trying to get rid of him. But some of these are like the illegal men are in the ring for 20 minutes. It's a little ridiculous at times.
Yeah, and I don't know if you watch basketball, but sometimes in like the championship game, whether it be a conference tournament or even in football, sometimes they'll say, oh, like this is a big game. The refs are letting them, get a little physical. There might be some, hand checking here and there. But if it's a blatant foul, then they're going to call it.
Yeah, give them a little leeway.
That's on the announce team to relay that to us of, hey, you know what? This is kind of a blood feud right here. The ref's going to give them some leeway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But as far as that, any other thoughts on where we're going with the Bucks, Omega, Don Callis, Good Brothers, where all that's going?
Yeah, I'm afraid to say any thoughts because no matter what I say, it's going to be the opposite. So I'll just say that next week they fly into Daly's Plaza on flying unicorns that are shitting rainbows. And then we all take a trip to Candy Mountain with Charlie.
All right. As far as ratings went this week, NXT actually bested AEW for the first time in a long time, 768,000, and actually AEW dropped 12,000 viewers from last week down to 688,000, which is the first time under 700 since June of last year. So a little rough, but I mean, it is like the first night of TakeOver, so
Well, it's also, and you cut, so I'm not sure if you said that it's apparently Mania week,
Yep.
And NXT had a named show last night.
Right.
And then what is it? Next
takeover.
week is when NXT goes to Tuesday.
Correct.
And did you notice the sign that said AEW is the Wednesday Night Wars Sole Survivor?
Yes, I saw that. That was pretty funny.
Yeah. And I've also heard, I cannot confirm this, but I've heard that JBL is taking over NXT because Triple H still to work Tuesdays.
I thought that was just like a April Fool's rumor.
No, it's actually a reference to the one promo that I think it was Paul Heyman cut on JBL that said the only reason you've been SmackDown champ for so long is Triple H doesn't want to work Tuesdays. God. And this is when SmackDown was airing on Tuesdays. But yeah, since it's NXT's moving to Tuesdays, somebody in one of the wrestling groups I'm in made that joke, and I was like, that's hilarious.
That's funny. Yeah, I haven't watched WWE in a long time, and I wasn't watching much when it switched to Tuesday, so... anything else you want to cover with AEW before we wrap it up here?
No, other than I hope that Darby's character either improves or he drops the title soon.
Yeah. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with if the Bucks drop the belts to Death Triangle next week. That'd be fine too. So right now, the only people that I care for them to hold on to their belt,
I think one of the titles will drop next week. I think one title drops next week, but not both.
That is a possibility. We will see, I guess. All right. Yeah. Thanks everybody for tuning into That's Wrestling. Hopefully the audio problems weren't annoying enough for you to shut off the show and you actually made it through the whole way. Thanks very much. If you are listening to this as a podcast, head over to our YouTube or Twitch because we do these shows live. And if you subscribe to the YouTube channel, it'll let you know as soon as we schedule a live stream. If you are actually watching live as it's happening right now, I will be back immediately after this show goes off the air for another show, and I'll be covering New Japan Segura Genesis. So I'm gonna be flying solo on that one. So it's gonna be a short one, but it is what it is. If you want to follow us on Twitter at That's Wrestling 1 with the number 1 comments, question, feedback, you can send to Eric at that'swrestling.com. You can go to that'swrestling.com to snag the RSS feed for your podcast if you cannot find it in your podcast app, but I'm pretty sure we're pretty much on all of the major platforms at this point. Discord link is in the show notes as well. So for Darryl W. Perry, my name is Eric LaRoche, and you have been watching and listening to That's Wrestling. See you later, guys.